What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Good Anime Palette Podcast. This is episode number 38, where we talk about anime and eat takoyaki, but we're out of takoyaki. I am your co-host, Jason, and I'm joined, as always, as usual, with Pink Shirt Will over here.
No takoyaki, but we did get okonomiyaki last week, was it? Or 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago.
God, that was a good night.
That was a good night.
Except that because of the fact you're also making it yourself. Well, I was making it myself, but you also got hit by all the oil and all the mayonnaise as well.
So when I got home, it was palpable, the smell.
Dude, I felt kind of like wary that I was covered in grease and mayonnaise and that takoyaki sauce.
I think they call it tonkatsu sauce.
Tonkatsu sauce.
Yeah,
it's essentially like boiled down like Worcestershire sauce with more sugar in it.
So good though.
It's amazing.
So good.
I remember as well when I added like a layer on top and then added another layer on top, and then Jason's like, "Yeah, no, just give me the sauce."
yeah. I love that sauce.
It was a good time. It was a good time.
But we're here to talk about anime, and we are here to also talk about some manga too.
Yeah. So I remember like a couple months ago, actually, we were kind of on like a little hiatus in terms of watching and reading stuff. I think it was just because like it was season's end, and we just had already been like so wiped out from doing all this watching, all this reading, that we just kind of took like a 2-week break.
Okay, I'll be honest. My reading and watching habit it needs to be. The pace needs to be picked back up again.
Yeah,
and
but you've also been busy too. Like, some
Will,
life developments on your end.
True, real in like IRL developments. But Will did me a solid, and just shout out officially to my co-host Will here, accommodating me. Thanks, man.
Dude, I mean, like, the anime life is tough, especially when you have new shit coming out now with the new season.
Yep.
And you also have new topics coming up, which means you need to keep up the pace.
Yep.
But you also have another set of pace to catch up with as well.
I'm not even done with last season's stuff because I put it on hold. So now the new season's coming. And by the way, listeners, our next episode, EP episode, is going to be summer seasonal. So get ready for that.
Yeah. So just spoiler alert, this summer season's actually pretty lit.
Yeah,
I actually quite like. You remember, like, we talked about, we were like, I don't know, like, how this is going to go. I don't know. Is this going to be like another winter season where like you have your heavy hitters, but at the same time you don't know which of these sevens are going to be good to watch? I watched a lot of them, and a lot of them are really, really good.
Yeah.
Which is why, like, now I'm kind of wondering, damn, like, did I just kind of lowball myself when I said
you totally did
with 3? Because at the moment there are 4. I'm still holding on to that, and I think it will still be like a safe-ish bet. But if it gets to a 5, I wouldn't be surprised either.
Oh no, I think it'll get to a 5.
Yeah,
if not higher.
Who knows? I mean, we're only literally like one episode in for most seasonals right now.
Yeah, and things can obviously change, and obviously towards the end of any seasonal premiere, anime season, when everyone finishes all the episodes, the scores change massively as well. So, all right.
We'll save those for the next episode because that's when we're going to be doing our summer premieres.
Yeah.
So
because we actually have a lot of news to cover, actually, because Anime Expo 2022 is happening over the weekend.
Yeah. So we're going to try and consolidate most of it. I mean, to be fair, like you said, right, there's a lot of heavy stuff we want to go over, and it's up to our discretion on how much we want to go into it. But before we even go into the news, let's talk about the stuff that we've been watching and reading. I know you've been watching some stuff in the background, but like not to full completion yet, so maybe we'll just save it for next time.
Yeah, just save it for next time.
There was a show, though, that came onto Netflix about a week ago, and when I brought it up to you, you were like, yeah, no, actually I had this on my to-watch list, but I wasn't ready to pull the trigger on it yet because I'm still watching other stuff. The show in question is Bastard, Heavy Metal Dark Magic. That came
fantasy?
Dark Magic. Or dark fantasy. At least on Netflix, it's... Oh, no, yeah, Dark Fantasy, sorry. Yeah. So, Bastard is...
A bitch? No, I'm just kidding.
It's just a straight up asshole, actually.
I'm just kidding.
So just to give it like a little bit of like a background into it, it was originally on Shueisha's Weekly Shonen Jump in 1988 as manga, right? That's the original form, and it ran for around 22 years regularly. So it moved from WSJ through to Ultra Jump. I would assume because of its interesting material. It managed to collect up to like 27 volumes But by 2010, 2012, it mysteriously went in hiatus. No one knows why, but if you watch the stuff and you read the stuff, yeah, you know why. I think right now, like the licenses have expired now, so it's safe to say that the manga is not going to be coming back for a while, especially since it hasn't been released in the last 12 years. So that's the manga. There was an original adaptation about 20 years ago. No, sorry, 30 years ago in 1992, when it was done by Studio AIC.
I don't even know AIC.
Oh, dude, they're old school. I mean, like, AIC, when we talk about like the sports anime episode,
Like major?
super old school shit. That was 6 episodes.
Oh wow, they actually did some stuff that I actually would be interested to watch. Sorry,
But it's like it's not like a studio that comes to mind immediately, right? It's only when you do a little deep digging, then you're like, oh, I actually know the studio.
right.
So fast forward to 2022 on July 30th, literally a week ago, at least from recording. Netflix decided, you know what? We're gonna drop this shit. We're gonna bring you 24 episodes of Bastard Heavy Metal Dark Fantasy, with the first season released now, and then the second season released to be decided to be announced whenever. And of all studios, Leiden Films. We've talked about Leiden Films. They're a pretty decent studio, and they've actually been starting to pick up the slack over the last year. Like, there's a lot of stuff that, if we've watched, that Leiden Films has produced, it's solid. Bastard, though, like, okay, let me just get it out of the way. I like Bastard. Bastard's a really, really fun anime to watch. The visuals are great. The comedic lines and the character interactions are solid.
Right.
Especially if you're like a heavy metal fan.
Yeah, so I think people need to know what heavy metal is.
So,
not the music, even though it is also about the music, but I'm referencing, I guess, the comic book series. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And that one is a really old comic book series, but it's very well known to be very
Risque.
A lot of hairdos, a lot of metal.
Very offensive.
Just think Mad Max, almost.
Yeah, no, they did an animation as well for heavy metal. And like the soundtrack for that, because I like metal, it's not like the kind of like Norwegian death metal that a lot of people might like refer to. No, this is more like the hair metal, thrash metal, the early days of like Pantera,
Like Sandman.
Yeah, like Metallica, Pantera, Dio, Kiss, like that kind of genre. Now the original creator Hagiwara, let me get his full name. So his full name is Kazushi Hagiwara. The reason why Master existed in the first place, he likes heavy metal, and he likes Dungeons and Dragons. I like heavy metal. I like Dungeons and Dragons. Why wouldn't this make sense to me? So a lot of the characters and the place names, even the spells they use, are essentially references to all of Hagiwara's favorite bands. Half of them I saw immediately. I was like, yeah, no, I know what the hell you're talking about. There's, of course, some more obscure bands in there too, but that just shows like sort of depth of knowledge and appreciation that Hagiwara has for the genre that is heavy metal.
So I actually, besides what I have seen as the poster and kind of having an idea of the vibe, you know, with heavy metal and stuff, the story, I'm guessing, is it pretty simple?
Oh,
and
dude, it's like the most simple form.
Wait, can
of
I
a lot of
guess?
fantasy. Yeah, go for it.
You save a princess.
Not necessarily save. No. In fact, you're protecting a princess.
Okay. So
from the get-go, the princess is already there.
Oh, okay.
But it's not just a princess. There is a whole harem of women.
Oh, harem. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it starts off with a young boy who's in the protection of another female. However, deep down within this young boy, his name is Lucien, first of all. This is all like within the wiki anyway. It's like the synopsis of the series. So Lucien is just a young boy who has been entrusted with the soul of one of the most powerful wizards in this series, Dark Schneider. So Dark Schneider, like, basically, like, following like one of the most like major events within this world, was known to be essentially like creating havoc, seeking world domination, as well as like building a huge harem over 4 centuries.
Okay, can I just say some of these names? Yoko Tianoto and Soto Gionoto. And then, of course, the one that's the winner is Lars Ulu Talikana.
And you know who that is, right?
Of course I know who that is,
Right?
but it's just pretty funny. Like,
it's literally it's on the nose.
yeah, it's this,
yeah.
right?
But the thing is, of course, because of copyright issues, they didn't want to get sued. They had to, of course, change a few things.
Hey, they learned from Jojo, right?
But that's what I mean. This is like that's the level of like referencing that Hagiwara wanted to put into the manga.
So I need to ask you, if you are not a fan of heavy metal, would you still be able to extract a good amount of enjoyment and satisfaction?
You could, because it's the comedy beats are there, the action scenes are actually pretty solid, but and this is like the main issue as well, right?
Yeah.
Like it covers a lot of like the aspects of fantasy, dark fantasy, which also means it goes into the risque,
sensitive topics,
controversial areas. Mm-hmm. So there are, of course, going to be a lot of things that most people are not going to be cool with. I think we will go into this a little bit later with regards to the main topic, but I'm not saying anything or critiquing about the world of PC or political correctness.
But at least you can see it, right?
There is going to be issues for some people in watching this, but because the thing is, right, with Bastard, it's offensive. It's not it's unapologetic. It's unabashed. It's just straight in your face. Like, you either like this or you hate this. And the rating on my anime list shows it too.
Yeah, I was about to mention 6.93 right now for the ONA. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like literally on the cusp of a 7. So I think when I first saw it, it was like a 7, then a 6.99, 98. It starts slowly teetering down. I think where it is right now is very reflective of that love-hate relationship that people have with this series.
I mean, you and I both believe that when any anime on my anime list reaches the 6 category, the number 6 point something something, it doesn't mean it's bad. It means it's more niche, right?
Divisive,
right?
Yeah, and that's what Bastard is. Like, look, I enjoyed. I gave it an 8 in the end, but I was actually like very, very close to giving this. It was a case of 7.5. But the last couple episodes, I pushed it more towards an 8 for me.
Whichever way it swung, right?
But that's also because I wasn't offended by what I was seeing. Now, I hope that's not a reflection of my character. It's just in the end, like, I just choose not to take certain things seriously because I know this is just fiction. But I know that there's going to be people who take offense to what is in Bastard. And that's completely fine, too. I have no issues whether you like this or not. Everyone has their own opinion. My opinion is it's not a bad show. I'm actually looking forward to the second half of Bastard. I think because like, look, you enjoy D&D yourself. You know some heavy metal, but you're not like, oh, I'm a heavy metal fan. It's just like, if I say the band's like Metallica, if I say like Anthrax, if I say Slayer, you're like, yeah, I know of them, but like, how much do I know? Like,
I like Top Hats.
I can maybe name like 1 or 2 songs from some of these bands, but like, I'm not like deep into the culture. And like, that refers back to the question, like, if you don't know the references in terms of the metal bands, it's in the same way where like there are going to be certain references for other shows that you kind of miss, but I think there's enough within Bastard for you to enjoy, regardless of you knowing the metal references or not.
Someone wears a hat, though, right? There has to be, like a Mad Hatter, because you know what I'm referencing, right?
Yeah,
there needs to be.
I think there is.
Because it would be pretty egregious if it's not.
Well, maybe that wasn't one of Hagiwara's favorite bands.
You bastard.
Yeah, bastard.
All right, what else you got for me?
So I would recommend, but with an asterisk, because it can, it ruffle people's feathers. So completely understand if you don't enjoy it. So we move on from Bastard onto something that both Jason and I have consumed very rapidly. We're talking about a one-shot manga by none other than fucking Fujimoto.
Wait. Well, we talked about Goodbye Eri already.
Yeah, we also talked about Look Back. We know that Chainsaw Man is going to be debuting its second part in a couple days from this recording.
Yep.
What else is... Well, actually, you know what? Fujimoto's like, yeah, I'm not done yet. Here's another one-shot. So on the Jump Plus platform, Fujimoto released for free for everyone to read, Just Listen to the Song. A one-shot that is probably more one-shot than all the other ones he's done because it's only 20 pages.
It's literally a chapter. It's like 20-something pages, yeah. And obviously, because it's on Jump Plus, it's also on Manga Plus. At this point, they're synonymous depending on which platform you use, essentially.
I got both on my Android, but I think you only get...
I get Manga Plus on my iPhone. I can't get Jump Plus.
Yeah, so I got both Jump Plus and Manga Plus on Android, but I just...
Is there actually any difference
No.
if you have both?
No, not really.
Okay.
I don't know why I got both, but I mean, like...
You
whatever
got to catch them all, right?
Exactly. I just try and get whatever manga apps I can. Okay, but on to the one-shot. So... It's been kind of consistent. I think it was like not even 6 months ago that we were talking about Look Back. And then 3 months later, we talked about Goodbye Eri. And now here we are talking about Just Listen to the Song. So what is Just Listen to the Song about?
I think we should not, because there's only literally 21 pages. I think us going into the plot is kind of not...
Because you say the plot, that's all 20 pages.
Yeah.
I know.
I know.
It's really hard not to spoil it.
I will tell you, though, the end result of how I feel, which is I gave it a 7. But not because it was bad, as much as there wasn't a lot for me to give it a more appreciative score comparatively to the other two one-shots.
It's kind of like watching an anime, but only the opening.
Yeah,
that's all you get from it, and then you have to base your judgment off it. So it's hard to get anything out of it.
Surprise! Anime summer season's premiering now. Everyone is watching the first episode of everything, and some scores are not indicative of the final product when we look at week 12, right?
But what I would say is like there's a lot of metaphors, symbolism,
definitely
that like refer to some real IRL shit that's either happening in your life or in Fujimoto-san's life.
Yeah, you told me something that I will give you the opportunity to say, which is something about like why he wrote this one shot, and you're convinced, and I'm convinced after hearing from you that the message that he's trying to sort of imply to the readers. So, do you know what I'm talking about, Will?
I think we should just leave it up to the fans after reading it. It's like, is this a reference to the other stuff that he's released?
Hey, you know what? Rather than just listen to the song, just read it. You know, just read it.
It's a good time because you're only spending like 3 minutes to read it. It's 20 pages. You can flip through it very quickly. There's not a lot of dialogue. Whether or not you want to read it, it's up to you. The best part is it's free. So pick it up or not, hey, it's always there for you to check out.
And if you like this 20-something page one-shot, Will and I can emphatically tell you the other one-shots that are way longer are also exemplary. Like, they're just excellent. So, yeah.
So on to the news of today. We got a lot of stuff to crack on, but we'll go over the non-Anime Expo stuff first.
Which unfortunately is a bit of some bummers.
There's some bad news, and then there's some really bad news. We'll get the not as bad news out of the way first. So you and I have been kind of pensively waiting for the debut of the anime adaptation of Uzumaki. It's been delayed year after year after year, and lo and behold, it's going to be delayed again.
Right. So Uzumaki is a manga, originally a manga written by the well-known, extremely iconic,
legendary
Japanese horror artist and writer Junji Ito. So I really like Uzumaki, the manga. Gave it, I think, a 10 out of 10. I watched the live-action movie, and the trailer looked really good, even though it was like very small, like very short, right? It looked good, but we're gonna have to wait a bit longer.
Yep. And then
no release date too, by the way. So
just a couple weeks ago, actually very recently, the Uzumaki anime production team released a statement on Twitter, originally in English and then translated, originally in Japanese and then English translated. Thanks to everyone for their interest and positive comments about our Uzumaki anime adaptation. Unfortunately, the premiere date of the series must be delayed again. In order to replicate the quality of the intricate designs and detailed line work of Mr. Ito's classic manga, director Nagahama and the production team have asked for additional time to recreate Ito's masterpiece properly. And then up other stuff. Thank you for your continuing patience and support. The anime production, we've talked about it before. Like, the process is not as straightforward as people think. But it is a bummer to a lot of the fans when you have to see another delay for something that is so highly anticipated. Or if you're like us, like you and me, we're kind of cautiously anticipating it.
We are of two minds about this, because I right away was like not happy about this news, and it was quite worrying. You, on the other hand, was more like, well, if they need more time, I'd rather have them, spend more time to make it a better finished product than to shit it out in like a shitty state, basically. And I do agree with that statement, but recently there has been certain delays. Of course, they're not related to Uzumaki, but like I'm thinking of like World's End Harem and all this stuff that, we need to delay it, we need to delay it, we need to delay it. And then the end product is arguably in some cases even worse than what would not have if you didn't make those changes.
It may be one of those cases of overthinking, overworking it, and then like when you think you got the finished product, you come out with it, and then people are like, actually, I think you guys like spent way too much time on something that really didn't need to happen, like the changes they made. So who knows? I think I'm completely sympathetic. I think that it's not easy working in anime production, and they need the time to produce something that, yes, we've seen firsthand how intricate and how tough it is to actually replicate Junji Ito's stuff. I mean, dude, there have been so many failures in terms of anime adaptations of Ito's shit.
Yep, for sure. So it's not that I am mad at the delay itself. I'm just worried, I guess, is the more appropriate term.
Because it's like, if it keeps getting more and more and more delayed, it's like you got to think about how heavy of a material they're actually working with, and then you're like, is this an insurmountable challenge?
Like, is this going to be Redline?
I wouldn't say it would make or break the studio. It's more just like, I mean, would you say the reputation's on the line with this?
No, but I'm just saying like production hell essentially is what I'm like in limbo. That's how I feel.
I mean, surprise factor if it gets delayed again in 2023.
So here's the thing. Originally, it was supposed to come out this Halloween or in the fall season, which is
October. After like the first or second delay, it was supposed to come out like a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Right. So I do think the Halloween release date or the October release date is a very good idea to kind of convince people to watch something horror related. I mean, Miruko-chan is the same thing.
Well, usually, at least in Japan, it's not like they have to stick it to Halloween, but because this is going to be premiering on Adult Swim.
Yes.
That's why it's important.
And all over the world, too. So, yeah, if I were to delay it, I would rather delay it all the way till next year's Halloween or October.
So they got another 15 months.
Yeah, and at that point, if you delay again, then I'm just not going to care. Cause
it's hard to care now. I think it's just one of those just like if we keep caring, then the expectation levels keep rising.
I literally forgot about it, to be honest, until they said, we're getting delayed. And I was like, right.
Oh, right, that's a thing.
All right, yeah, okay, all right, yeah.
All right. So moving on from the Uzumaki delay, we now have to, pay our respects and our sympathies to the next bit of news. A lot of us grew up reading and watching Yu-Gi-Oh!, like one of the more popular card collecting anime and manga series.
And if you have not even heard of Yu-Gi-Oh!, I'm sure you might have heard of the meme of, you're now like trap card, right?
Yeah.
You've fallen into my trap. Yeah.
So the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh!, Kazuki Takahashi, has sadly passed away at the age of 60. This news was reported very, very recently. And we've covered a lot of tragic losses within the anime and manga community, and this is no different. We definitely were shocked by what happened. So the Japanese Coast Guard had actually found Takahashi's body floating off the coast of Okinawa. Apparently there was snorkeling gear. There hasn't been any suspected foul play, but it is still nonetheless tragic to find that what looks to be an accident had led to the tragic loss of Takahashi.
So when I just saw the headline, the first thing that came to my mind was suicide, especially when you add in Coast Guard. So obviously it doesn't make that much of a difference because it's unfortunate that he passed away anyways, but snorkeling by yourself is a very dangerous thing to do, even if you're a professional. So just be safe out there, guys. But going back to the subject at hand, I thought that Yu-Gi-Oh! Was always cool. I had some cards, but I never played it. I wasn't really that into it, but it was always something that I knew is not only a huge thing, but also, funny enough, almost like in the West, it's a way bigger thing because in Japan and in Hong Kong, where we live, we have a bunch of random card games and stuff like that will never make it to the other continents. So, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Obviously was always there.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we also grew up with Pokemon cards, but my memory of it was at least when I was in Canada, if you weren't playing Magic the Gathering, you were playing Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yes, I would agree as well. So, I mean, I didn't watch Yu-Gi-Oh at all. I mean, I watched it as but it's here and there.
But through osmosis, you know what it's about. You know the memes. You know the culture.
I know how to
Yu-Gi-Oh.
play it. Yeah.
So in the end, right, Takahashi brought a whole new community 30 years ago into the anime industry, and it's a very heavy loss.
I mean, no, I'm really at a loss for words. Similarly with Kentaro with Berserk, right? It's just within a short span of time, we have lost all these iconic
heavy hitters,
and rest in peace. I hope the family is doing okay, and hopefully send them love if you can.
Yeah, our respects to the family, their friends, and everyone connected with Takahashi.
Do you think you will buy the manga to sort of,
I wouldn't buy the manga. I would probably try and get my hands on some of the cards.
Yeah, actually, that's not. Yeah, I mean, in Japanese though, or in English?
Of course, the Japanese cards.
I mean, good luck finding a trading card store in Hong Kong, though.
Oh, you have to buy it online.
Okay, yeah, you probably have to buy it online.
Okay, so moving on to some slightly better news.
So, right, the weekend that just passed is Anime Expo 2022, and this is usually the annual expo where a bunch, and I mean a bunch, of announcements, panels, and everything are all it's like the E3 in many ways of anime. And we have a slew of announcements. Some are fast, some are a bit more in-depth. So let's start with Crunchyroll. Will, do you like Crunchyroll originals?
No. I don't think there's any originals that I like from Crunchyroll.
You should watch Fly Me to the Moon, though.
Yeah.
Inspector's okay. But they announced...
The score says otherwise.
True. Crunchyroll has unveiled 2 anime that from manga will be adapted into anime. The first one is called Tomo-chan is a Girl, which is a shoujo romance comedy series about a tomboy and her high school life with a dude and her classmates. Old book, old series, finished. It's available in English. It's really good.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that announcement then got overshadowed by
one of the
most anticipated, most wanted adaptations.
We talked about this for BP8.
Yeah,
and how could we have known? And literally, then we're prophets. We're prophets. Solo Leveling, probably one of the most popular webtoons in existence. Would you say in existence?
Oh, dude, it's the highest rated one on my anime list, I think.
Right. So they're going to be adapting Solo Leveling, but not the webtoon version.
They're doing the Japanese manga version,
which kind of is what's the difference? And
I don't really want to get too into it.
Let's not get too into it.
Yeah, let's not jump into the weeds. I think if you want to find out, just look up on Twitter.
Right.
The Twitter is going off on why it's being the Japanese adaptation as opposed to the Korean adaptation. But that point aside, super highly anticipated. And they've got a good studio and cast in place already to produce it.
Who could it be, Will? Who could it be?
So the studio in question is A1 Pictures.
Wait, who's A1 Pictures?
Oh, A1 Pictures.
You mean the sauce, right? The steak sauce, right?
Anohana sauce.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh, did they do something called Kaguya? What was that anime called? Love is...
Something ultra, right?
Something ultra. I can't think of anything.
Lo and behold, A1 Pictures, they're going to be a fucking fantastic studio for Solo Leveling.
Okay, but anime is all about the visual and also auditory, right?
So why don't you get the best in the game in Sawano?
Oh, okay.
It's not fair at this point.
Yeah, it's not fair. It really is. Okay, I'm playing along, but really, oh my god, the trailer looked. They didn't really show any footage of the anime itself, but just the music was so hype.
I'm kind of ready to watch it. I haven't read the manhwa or the manga, but hey, look, if it's A1 and it's Sawano, it was only a year ago when I was talking about fucking 86 with Sawano and A1 Pictures, and that shit was fantastic. So I'll enjoy it no matter what.
All right.
On to the next bit of news. Another adaptation coming out. And this is a manga series that we've talked about before, but it was one of those kinds of like, this could potentially get an adaptation into, no, this should absolutely get an adaptation.
I think it was like third place in my GAP finale award for this manga needs to get an adaptation. Mashle, Magic and Muscle is going to get a TV anime in 2023. On top of that, the anime is listed as a complete anime adaptation.
Yep. So recently, they had just reached the 12th and final volume of the... they reached the final arc within the 12th volume of the manga. So 12 volumes, that's a pretty good run.
Yeah.
For any sort of like new like Jump Plus series, that's pretty solid.
I read over 100 chapters, and Mashle is literally a portmanteau of Magic and Muscle, and that's basically it. Think of One Punch Man in terms of the comedy mixed in with Harry Potter. And
or Mob Psycho.
Or Mob Psycho. And I really enjoy Mashle, and I think the adaptation is only like a matter of time, and obviously now it's here.
I don't want to hype it up too much, but this could be another one of those Chainsaw Man situations, because Mashle only debuted 2 years ago.
Look, I was ecstatic.
But no news on which studio is adapting it, right?
No, they have not announced anything. They have shown like a concept key visual, but I think it was just drawn by the mangaka. So
yep. So I think we're gonna just blast past these ones quite quickly. There actually is a bit of news from the Studio Trigger team.
Right, but let's first talk about Konosuba. So a long time ago, we mentioned in a news story that Konosuba has mentioned a new anime project, but they have not announced what it is. Turns out now they announced it, which is now Konosuba, an explosion on this wonderful world! ! So it's about Megumi, and it is a spin-off of Konosuba. So that's coming soon.
I like Konosuba.
I like Konosuba. So, and Megumi is obviously beloved by a lot of people. So
there's enough memes about her.
Yep. Explosion.
More so than Aqua.
Yep. Well, she's useless anyways.
Depending on actually, I'm not gonna get into it.
Yeah. Okay. Mob Psycho 100. We already know that there is a third season incoming.
Yep. So key visuals have come in. Reveal for the opening theme song, which I haven't listened to yet, by the way.
And good news. Similarly with Kaguya-sama and I forgot the guy's name, the singer who sang all of the OPs.
Oh yeah.
Mob Choir is singing the opening for season 3. So harmony has been restored. There's balance in the force. Everything is okay. And this time, the first one was called 100. The second one was called 99.9. And then now the opening is called 1.
If that is an indication of that this is going to be the last of Mob Psycho, then...
Wait, is it?
I think, no, the manga's done.
No, I know that, but...
The adaptation, I think this is like the final arc adaptation of the manga, so we should be in the end game now.
Okay.
The fact that like the first 2 seasons, I think it covered the first... It covered around 2/3 to 3/4 of the manga.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think because there was a news update a while ago that had entered the end game and then it was done. And where it left off in Mob Psycho, it's like season 2, was literally before it got to the climax. So I'm really fucking hyped for this.
Yeah, because it's coming in the fall. So get ready.
I'm shitting bricks because it's like I really like Mob Psycho.
I really like Mob Psycho.
I really liked season 1 and I really like season 2.
So I thought season 1 was good. Season 2 is great. So what happened with season 3? It would be
like it'll be catastrophic if it sucks.
Oh my god! Don't say that. Don't.
You heard it here first. Okay, so now you want to go over the Studio Trigger stuff because there's a few things in there actually.
So Studio Trigger is supposed to debut Cyberpunk Edge Runner. So then they had a panel where they announced, they showed a video and everything. We'll cover that when it releases. It looks pretty decent. But they have a surprise announcement. First off, on Twitter, Hiroyuki Imaishi said that, hey, I used to work for Gainax. We all used to work for Gainax. And this time, I managed to get some IP rights back, guys. And everyone's like, well, okay, what are they? Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann, which I'm like, okay, so is there more or you're re-releasing it? But the real crazy kicker is Panty and Stocking with Garterbelt. And Will, you watched it. I watched one episode, but you watched more. You quite like it, right? You dig it? It's basically Powerpuff Girls, but naughty.
Crass.
Yeah.
And I like it. I really, really do like it. So I thought that, like, after finishing it, though, that I was like, okay, I'm done with this. This was a fun ride, but ready to move on. So now that we got this news that there was going to be a second season,
right?
Or at least like a new adaptation for the Penny and Stocking
with
universe.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
So Studio Trigger,
I'm not super stoked on it, as in like, oh wow, this is gonna be fucking amazing. But we're just like, okay, I'm down. Why not? Let's see what they can do with it.
It was just a really unexpected curveball because I also never expected that. But hey, and then the TTGL sort of IP rights. So okay, are you gonna announce another TTGL or remaster, re-release? Like that has not been really mentioned at all.
And if you've watched it already, I feel it's like it ended perfectly.
Yeah, it ended perfectly. So getting the IP rights for that is a bit more mysterious, but maybe they just wanted to keep it so then they can re-release it or something. I don't know.
Yeah, if it's a re-release, fine. If it's like a redefinition, like is it like making it more high
like
def,
a 4K?
Yeah, then even better. Like I'm okay with that too. If they were to do like a spin-off series with it.
Okay, so it is called Tengen Toppa La Kill.
No, because that would just that wouldn't work.
Tengen Toppa Witch Academia.
No, I'm not. This is not like
Cyberpunk Witch Academia.
This is not Isekai Quartet. Okay, you're not just gonna mash all the trigger stuff together. Okay,
this is Kisniver. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll stop. But let's end it on probably the Baka of the Month. We have revived the Baka of the Month award, and this time around, it is given to one of the announcements of Anime Expo 2022.
Yeah. Will. So June 7th, Death Note gets a Netflix live adaptation series by Stranger Things creators. So Matt Duffer and Ross Duffer, known as the Duffer Brothers, if you haven't figured that one out, they were responsible for producing and working on the Stranger Things series, taking the storm out of every fucking series there is right now on Netflix because everybody supposedly really, really likes Stranger Things. I didn't really get into it. I have a couple friends who are really, really into it.
I really liked the first season, and then I kind of just lost track of time and didn't watch the others. Not because I didn't like it, just other stuff.
What I hear is that like season 1 is like amazing. It's different. It's
super
cool,
good.
But then afterwards, the next 2 seasons are kind of like they're good, but like they don't reach the same heights as season 1.
Like same shit, different day kind of thing.
Exactly, right? Once you've gotten past the allure of Stranger Things, you're just watching a good show. That's it.
Right. But now their next project apparently is a live action series of Death Note. Okay.
Yeah. So a while ago, not even a while ago, a long time ago, back in 2017, Netflix had already done a live action adaptation of Death Note.
Isn't William Dafoe, right?
Yes, he was Ryuk. And then you also had Nat Wolff as Light, Keith Stanfield as L. You also had Margaret Qualley as Mia, though she was Mia Sutton. And not Light Yagami, it was Light Turner.
God damn it. Fucking god damn it.
Yeah. I don't know who asked for this.
Okay.
Why do we have another live adaptation of Death Note?
So, okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, Will. But either recently or about to be, there is a new live action of Fullmetal Alchemist. Is that correct?
Yeah.
There is a One Piece by Netflix, I think, too. Is it by Netflix? Of live action of One Piece. Am I correct?
Yep.
So now, Death Note has joined the gang of live action adaptations.
Except that there already was one.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'll just say it because everyone's thinking it. Oh, Death Note, death, rebirth. Oh, it just won't die. Blah 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 blah. Oh, new in live action. Okay, we're good.
Yeah. Apparently, this is going to be a new take from Netflix's previous Death Note film.
Well, it fucking better be a new take if you're gonna do a new series.
But what would be a new take on Death Note? Like Death Note came out in 2003, and like it just like I'm talking about the not 2003. Actually no, yeah, the manga came out in 2003, and then the adaptation for it like anime wise came out like 3 years later. We were all fine with it, and then all of a sudden they decided to release the live action ones. The Japanese live actions, which I did watch a few of them. They were decent. They weren't amazing, but they were decent. And then I thought, okay, that was it, right? That last spin-off movie with L Changed the World. That was like, I thought you guys are done. Then you go like 9 years into the future, and then the English adaptation.
But Will, look, listen. First of all, you have this beloved manga series, and we have learned from our mistakes. We have seen all these live action adaptations, and we have realized that a new take to reinvigorate the live action series of animes are needed because, I just wanted to tell this story. I'm the representative for the Duffer Brothers. No, I'm not. But
this is literally DC Comics trying to make Superman a good movie.
Okay, look, Man of Steel I thought was decent.
But I mean, like, is there anything else that's memorable since the Christopher Reeve days?
Batman v Superman was okay.
Yeah, but
okay.
Yeah, but like this is like I'm afraid we're getting into like a territory where we just now get Netflix to adapt anything.
How about this, Netflix? Spend less money on these and spend more money making
on No Game No Life 2?
Yeah, or how about like literally anything else? Put more money into Exception. Put more money into the Grimm Brothers with studio thing, whatever that would be.
I think it's just also the fact that they're trying to ride that wave of Stranger Things as well, right? Like it's because that is like their moneymaker now.
Look, if you're Christopher Nolan and you're Warner Brothers is not going to say no to Christopher Nolan ever, right? So the Duffer Brothers at this point is like the equivalent of that, right? And you're sitting side by side with the creators of Squid Game. Netflix is not going to say no to anything that they say. So, okay, fine, I get that.
That's why we have a Squid Game season 2. That's
right.
why we have a reality game version of Squid Game coming on Netflix as well.
So, look, I get it, but at the same time, like,
the formula's not that simple.
You tried it once, failed. Tried it twice, failed. And then the Japanese live action movie tried and did okay, I think.
The thing with like these kinds of adaptations, I get why they're doing it. It's purely a business move. And of course, like, why not? You want to capitalize on the success of Stranger Things, so you get the Duffer Brothers to do it. And you also capitalize on the huge fan base that Death Note still has, despite what happened with the English adaptation.
Do you think it's because they got the license due to the previous iteration? So then they're like, oh, hey, we have this license which might expire, because that's how it works, right?
Possible.
And then the Duffer Brothers are pretty hot right now with Stranger Things. Let's marry the two. Maybe that's literally as simple as that.
Maybe. If it was that simple, then sure. But I don't know, man. It's not always like 1 + 1 = 2 in this sense. It's like it's not just that straightforward. I feel that when was the last time there was a live adaptation of an anime or manga that actually worked? Dragon Ball sucked.
Ghost in the Shell sucked.
Yeah, One Piece looks terrible. Fullmetal Alchemist didn't work. Bleach sucked.
Was there?
I guess Pokemon?
Detective Pikachu?
Yeah.
I mean, that one was okay.
That was okay, but it was also because like it wasn't about Pokemon. It was about Ryan Reynolds being Pikachu.
I mean, yeah.
And apparently, like, yeah, no, I haven't watched it, but like people were, down with it, right? For Ryan Reynolds. That's literally it. I would say that was probably the only acceptable live adaptation. But outside of that, everything has been a stinker.
All right, hold on. Let me Google this and see.
Well, like highest grossing live adaptations? Because I don't think there's any good ones. I could be wrong, but like until someone proves Dragon Ball was awful, right? Apparently, the new Dragon Ball Super movie was also like one of the worst rated ones within the whole Dragon Ball universe. So there's something about trying to grow or maintain the fandom that you've built, but
there's a Gintama live action.
I wouldn't be surprised.
There's a Disastrous Life of Psyche K live action.
Yes, there is one.
Okay, there's the Death Note. Okay.
I mean, there's a Honey and Clover live adaptation.
What?
Yeah, there's a Hanayori Dango
Space Racer, I remember that from the Wachowski brothers, I think.
Yeah.
Blade of the Immortal. Oh yeah, Ace Attorney. I forgot about that.
There actually are a lot of adaptations. It's just in the end, it's like they were already so good.
I can answer your question. Rurouni Kenshin.
Rurouni Kenshin?
The live action, apparently, if I remember, it did really well in the box office. I don't know whether or not that says anything about its quality, but I remember that making quite a big splash.
Okay, that's one. But it's also Rurouni Kenshin, so dope. I'm not watching live action Death Note.
It's very easy for us to shit on announcements or anything of live action adaptations.
As soon as you showed me
anime.
this, I was like, disregard. Just like ignore.
No, it wasn't ignore. It was like, let's just fucking go ham on this bullshit. Is what it is. All right, so
it's I don't know. Like, how is this going to work? Like a new take on Death Note? What is this now? Death Diary?
Wait.
Even harder?
Did you say diary? So future diary with Death Note.
Oh, so okay, fine. So Misa now has pink hair.
Yeah, that will work.
That's it.
I don't know. I don't fucking know.
Oh, what are you gonna do? So instead of like Ryuk being like a Shinigami,
so instead of eating potato chips, he's eating a corn dog.
And instead of a Shinigami, it's a Demigorgon.
Yeah, or I don't fucking know. I just like
maybe we're just too like monkey brain to understand what this is all about.
This is like 400 IQ, 360 no scope, like
69 gang. You know, like I don't know.
Yeah, Naruto 420 run. Yeah.
Kakabushi no Jutsu shit. You know,
yeah,
like
we don't know. We don't. Maybe our minds are too low level to comprehend the elegance of this announcement.
I'd rather not do that. If it's no level, I'd rather solo level. I'm just gonna wait for A1.
Hey, who's the one doing like terrible dad jokes and word puns?
Hey man, age, it's working for me.
All right.
Well, I'm more aging like cheese than wine.
Okay. So you're gross.
Soon molding, yeah.
Okay, damn, son. Okay. All right, so that is the end of our news story. Will, is there anything you want to say before we head off to our break?
I'm still shocked by why anybody even asked for a Stranger Death Note things. So I'm gonna need to take a little bit of break and just cool off. Just try and like restore my faith in humanity in anime and manga. Just stop abusing this shit, man.
Hey. How about just watch the anime?
You know, with all this bullshit too, I bet you there's going to be like Netflix announcing a live adaptation of
My Hero Academia.
No, of a Junji Ito production. Like there's gonna be a live action Gyo or
there is an Uzumaki live action.
Yeah, but that one was good. Yeah, but that was 20 years ago.
It was like 2004,
right?
Yeah.
It's gonna be a new take on that on Uzumaki.
So the spiral goes the other way.
Unspiral,
bro.
Yeah.
Uzumaki even has a U in it. Yeah, there you go.
So, hey, look, I said it here first. If it happens, I'm sorry, guys. Okay.
But yeah, there was also a lot of other miscellaneous announcements. There was also a bunch of TV anime adaptations, but we could just go on and on because there's literally like pages and pages of news stories, and we just...
We'll link the collated link in the description later as well. So if, for example, we didn't cover everything, which we didn't, and you want to know more, you can always look into the episode description and find the link to see all the other announcements that came out of Anime Expo this year.
But in all, a lot of very strong announcements that came out of Anime Expo, and I'm excited to see, minus obviously the Netflix thing, what else is in store for anime this year and the next and future.
There's a lot of good stuff, but we will take our time going over it. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll go into the nitty-gritty of today's episode. So we'll catch you all later.
Peace.
We are back for the second half of today's episode of the Good Anime Palette Podcast. It's still me, Will, still Jason, still reeling from the announcement that there's going to be a Stranger Death Note things. How are you feeling after that? Like you come back to your senses? You're less angry against the world now?
No.
There's just some things that just shouldn't exist, but like that.
Do you hear the level of contempt in my voice? I'm just so done with it.
I mean, have you written the Duffer Brothers in your Death Note?
Look, I don't wish death upon them. I wish I could like write the series and then have that die by itself.
What Death Note or Stranger Things?
No, the Stranger Death Note thing.
Oh, that one.
Like,
okay.
like instead of a person, write the name
Just
of
kill the series off.
Kill the series off.
Well, if only
So no one gets hurt technically, right?
Except for all the fans of Stranger Death Note things, I suppose.
Yeah, sure.
If they exist, I don't know who asked for
There's
it.
two of them. They're the Duffer Brother 1, Duffer Brother 2.
Yeah. So enough about that. We're going to go into the nitty gritty of today's topic discussion. Where, if you haven't seen from the title, we're into the next iteration of the Gotta Watch 'Em All series. This is episode 4 of Gotta Watch 'Em All.
Yep.
Yeah, so we left off with essentially I watched the first half of second season of Monogatari, and you watched the first half of part 3, which is Stardust Crusaders.
Right, season 1, also known as season 1 of Stardust Crusaders, right? And unfortunately, because of IRL stuff, like I mentioned in the first half of the podcast, I was supposed to watch all of season 2, which is the last 2 curves.
Yeah,
24.
episode 25 to 48.
But I ran out of time, but I managed to watch up to the halfway point, so it's better than nothing.
It's hard. I mean, like it's always, as I mentioned, like tough to be able to keep up with all the seasonal anime, all the stuff that we have on our plan to watch list, as well as all the stuff we need to do for our upcoming and current topic discussions. So
And just for fun too, right?
yeah, I mean, like who would have thought that like all of a sudden I see Bastard on Netflix and be like, yeah, I can totally watch this. Or like see like Akane Bashi on Manga Plus and be like, you know what, this is something I want to read. Let's check it out. So it's hard to keep everything up. But yeah, dude, Jojo.
Yeah, okay. So let's get into some background information first. So technically, Gotta Watch Them All number 4 is about Jojo part 3, Stardust Crusaders, but the second season and the first half of the second season. So it is not an issue of ordering or whatever, as much as I just stopped at the halfway point.
Yeah. And as for the Monogatari section, in the previous episode, I went over the first half of second season, which was Neko Monogatari White, Kabuki Monogatari, as well as just randomly slotted in Hana Monogatari.
Right.
So then today we'll be going over Otori Monogatari, Onimonogatari, and Koi-Monogatari.
Which is essentially the rest of Monogatari, the anime second season or second series,
based on the light novel of the second season of the Monogatari series.
God damn it! But
well, it's easy. I mean, like the naming conventions are straightforward, but it's like the reorder gets the reorder is like straightforward because it's released in that order.
Yep.
But like the watch order gets a little bit fucky because I don't know. I'm not the one organizing the release dates of anime series, so don't ask me for why all these things are released out of order.
So what we're going to do is talk about, in a non-spoilery way, JoJo Part 3, Season 2, first half of what I've consumed, and then we will talk about that, and then go into non-spoilers of what we'll watch for the Monogatari series, and then we will have like a 5-second kind of silence, and then go into spoilers for each of JoJo and Monogatari, and we will timestamp everything, as well as provide like a couple seconds of silence so you know the exact point when spoilers happen and spoilers end, basically. Non-spoilers end.
So picking up from the previous episode of the Gotta Watch 'Em All series, if you've been listening to it, things got a little bit heated in certain segments of our discussion of JoJo Part 3, Stardust Crusaders.
Season 1.
There were several gripes that you had with the series. Whilst you were like, you know what, it's still good. There were a few things that you were not too hot on, and you voiced them very, very passionately.
Especially because from my personal opinion, those egregious issues that I have, even though they are quite minor in comparison, the fact that it was in the adaptation is the thing that perplexes me. But to each their own.
So how do you feel about Stardust Crusaders Battle in Egypt so far? That's what the second season's called. So you watched the first half of it. So from episode 25 through to 37.
Okay. I say this every single fucking time, but JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is fucking bizarre and weird, and I love it. And I will start by saying that despite what I might say later on with my problems, which of what I've seen, which I stand by, this is the best JoJo thing that I've consumed thus far. And right now it sits in my mind as an 8.5 and close to a 9, depending on how it wraps up.
Yeah, it's a massive upgrade compared to the first season of Stardust Crusaders.
To the point where I'm debating retroactively going back, even though I don't really like doing that, to give the first season of Part 3 a 7. And then, well, I guess it depends on how I feel about Season 2. But all the things that I've said, at least the predictions, because I remember I listened to it. Some are, I don't know yet, but the battles are a lot better, I'll say that, with what I've seen so far of Battle for Egypt.
Do you feel like you got a more closer relationship to any of the characters now? Because I remember when you talked about the characters in our first discussion of Stardust Crusaders, that whilst of course they were very archetypal, very stereotypical, and you would expect a JoJo to be a JoJo, all his sidekicks to be sidekicks, and the enemies of the followers of Dio to be the same. But at least from my perspective, season 1 of JoJo Stardust Crusaders, I didn't really care too much about the characters, whereas when you go into Battle in Egypt, you start to really be like, yeah, no, this is a cool-ass JoJo. Kakuen is a lot better. Pomarov is a lot better. Avpadal is a lot more likable character.
You ready for my hot take?
Go for it.
I think the villains are way better than the amount of enjoyment I got out of the main characters.
It's not really a hot take. I think, in general, I of the vein where there are series where the villains are a lot more memorable than the protagonists.
Right. And I think the battles that I've seen thus far of JoJo, if I exclude what I saw for this particular Gotta Watch Them All, has been very violent, fighting, you punch each other and that's it. There wasn't really a lot of what I assumed at the time, hearing from a lot of JoJo fans as creative, out-of-the-box, wacky stuff. And basically, I saw a lot of that, even with the with the full half season that I consumed. The amount of villains I thought were going to be less because, spoiler alert for last season part.
Yeah, non-Egypt, basically.
Right, basically the tarot cards, right? That was supposed to be...
They lay out how many villains there's going to be.
Yeah, because you can work your way backwards. But it turns out that, let's just say there's a bit more to that, and I don't think that is anything wrong. In fact, I was like, oh, okay, so it's just different than what I expected. But what I did not expect was some of the fights to be very engrossing, and there's actually not any fighting.
It's a lot smarter in terms of the battles they have, right? It's more sort of strategic thinking to outwit your opponent as opposed to just straight up beating the shit out of them and overpowering them.
I think that the way that the fight got resolved of a certain stand with a female enemy was really good, as well as let's just say gambling. That one was also done extremely well, where violence was not really what ends up causing the villains to lose, because spoiler alert, usually villains lose and heroes win. So,
Did you like the new character additions?
Yes, so there is a new character that gets added kind of randomly at first. And at first I really didn't vibe well with this character, but over time I really have learned to really like this character. And the other thing I also want to say was a big sticking point I had last season was, I guess we can spoil last season, right?
Oh, yeah, I mean, we talked about it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so Avdol was a big problem I had with him because I thought he was a pretty good character, and then he supposedly died. Then all of a sudden, surprise, surprise, he's alive and in good health. And one of my issues was there's no stake because people just get hurt, but that's it. They're fine.
It's no longer when people get killed, they die, right?
Right, exactly. Life lessons, right? But I have to say that what I have seen of Season 2 already has alleviated my issues because someone on the team, something happened to them and they were, let's just say, out of commission for a period of time. And I just thought that simple act of, hey, you're out of commission, and this is not like a joke, this is not like a gag, I thought was like, okay, good. So people can get hurt, they don't die, but there's consequences. So I thought that was really good. Characters come back from season 1. I was very happy with some of how that turned out as well. But really, the fights are just really the highlights, because it's just very innovative in a way comparatively to what I've seen thus far. And Jotaro's still Jotaro, Joseph is still Joseph, so on and so forth. The fights are pretty good. Now, let's get to the issue at hand. I understand that the manga series originally is published from 1989 to, I think, 1994, I think. Well, basically...
Early 90s.
Yeah, it's of that era, right? And I think the jokes and gags, if anything, is very much of that era as well, and I'll get into that in spoilers. One thing that I was really surprised by is the amount of comedic beats that is in what I've seen so far. To the point where I would say Jojo, the first half of Season 2 of Part 3, is more of a comedy than action. What do you think about that statement?
I think, there's definitely a lot more funny moments in Part 2, in Season 2 of Stardust Crusaders in the first. I think it's because in the end, right, the issues with the first season was that there was a lot of time spent on character development and interaction, and not a whole lot in terms of actually building a story for people to follow.
Yeah, and also I guess with Season 1 of Part 3, you had to introduce all these characters, the main characters, basically. And then in Season 2, it is literally, let's just do our shit, rather than, who is this person, who's that person? Everyone knows everyone, minus the revelation of the villains, but you're acquainted with most of the players already. So there's just no bullshit, let's just go. And I like that a lot.
Yeah. So far, from what you've seen, pretty good. It could be
more than pretty good.
It could be really, really good if it keeps up that momentum.
I don't think Jojo would ever be a 10 in my book, but this is an extremely strong contender for 9.
Which, you only watched 3 parts so far.
Yeah.
There's still a whole lot more to come.
So then there's 3 Curses of Part 4. There's Part 5, which I think is
3 Curses as well.
And then there is Rohan Kishibe,
which is not a must-watch, but definitely it's only 4 episodes too.
And then there is Part 6,
which you're so far you've got a lot more stuff to maybe change your mind about JoJo in terms of not saying that you like it. It's more just when you say there's not going to be a 10, you might be surprised.
Look, I'll eat my own words when that happens for sure. I'm not against that idea. It's
but
not
the
like
fact
I have
that you're
vendetta.
even saying that this could potentially be a 9 is already a massive change compared to when you first talked about Stardust Crusaders.
Way more. I'm very happy, but there is a lot of issues.
But at the same time now, it's the issues could easily be outweighed by the good stuff you see.
So this is the part where I get desensitized, kind of. I know this is a bit sus, as they say.
Because you keep coming back with but why did you do this? What was the point in that? And then in the end, it's just if you tried to make sense of JoJo, it kind of defeats the purpose. I get that you want to be logical about the whole world of JoJo's bizarre adventure, but sometimes it's not necessarily the focus. Again, I'm not going to tell anybody to interpret it one specific way or another. Everything is open-ended, but at the same time, you have to understand what the purpose of JoJo is, and whether or not you appreciate from that perspective, that's completely fine.
I just think that I keep saying every single gotta watch them all. I at some point I say my problems are more severe, but the things that I like is even better than the previous iteration. And that pattern has not changed. I think the problems that I've had, which I can go over in spoilers in more detail, has exacerbated. But at the same time, it evens out with all the good things that I like about it. And I'm not saying that I'm going to dismiss all the quote-unquote questionable or bad things. It's just more that's not the point of the show. And that you also have to consider the context of it was in the 1989 to the early 1990s. So people had different views and stance then compared to now. But the issue I have is why have those things in? Some way more forgivable than others.
Yeah, I think I've talked about it in the previous episode too, where it's like, yeah, there's going to be some distasteful things in there, but it's not like it's the only culprit in this sense. But whether or not you choose to take offense of it, that's all completely up to you.
I think I took way more offense in season 1 with all these things, and now I am more okay with it.
More forgiving.
And in fact, if anything, my original gripe of why would you include like Jotaro calling his mom a bitch, you don't need to do that to express the point of Jotaro giving his mom the cold shoulder, but really they both really care for each other. Here, the things that are questionable, I actually don't have a direct answer of what would you do then to alleviate that, because it actually is quite integral either to the fight or to the plot. So there's almost way less excuse that you can give.
So far, it sounds like you're pretty hyped about it then.
Super hyped.
All right then.
Dio's powers better be fucking lit.
Well, I mean, you got one more card to go through, and yeah, trust me, it could change your perception on JoJo in general. I know you've been pretty like good with it so far, like you like what you see, but of course it's like, what more is there to offer that leads to why the JoJo fandom is so fucking crazy about the series? But you're edging closer and closer as to seeing what truly is bizarre about JoJo's adventure.
I don't think I will ever be a JoJo dedicated fan.
Ooh, early words, my man.
But I am definitely a fan and appreciator. That's not a word, of JoJo for sure.
You've definitely got a lot more parts to consume, so
I mean,
who knows?
Like
who absolutely knows?
Curse or something, and that's not even all of it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
right. And like, there's going to be more parts to like the series that will be adapted later on. Like, 2025, you might be seeing part 7 getting adapted. 2028, you get part 8 adapted. Yada yada yada. So, I mean, part 8, like the manga is done, and now we're about to release part 9.
Yeah. So my thoughts on it is rather subdued in comparison to the last Gotta Watch Them All. But actually a lot of hype you would hear from me will actually have to come from the spoilers. So let's move on to, Will, what you have been watching for the Monogatari series. Right. Non-spoilers.
So just to recap, right? 3 parts to the second half of the second season, which is Otori, Oni, and Koi. So we're going to start off with Otori.
It is the last 14 episodes of
4, 4, and 6.
That's correct.
So,
yes.
Otori is essentially the Japanese word for decoy. So then Otori Monogatari means decoy story. And as with any Nishio iteration, it's very apt. And it finally features one of the most slept-on characters, in my opinion, because she hasn't really featured much in the first season, as well as at all in second season. So I'm very happy to see Nadeko come back.
Hey, Kanahana's got to put in work, right, at some point.
Boy, does she do a fucking good job. So the whole portmanteau of Otori and Monogatari being, decoy story is 100% very fitting of what Otori is all about. So it focuses back on Nadeko, which, if we've seen from the first season, has been cursed by a snake oddity, and therefore then you start seeing more and more about her character, about her relationship with the characters, specifically Koyomi Aragi, the main character of the Monogatari series, as well as her dealings with the oddity curse that she has been inflicted on. So it's finally good to see the oddity side of Nadeko, because we've seen it for we've seen it for Mayoi, we've seen it for all the other characters that featured in the previous episodes, the previous seasons, and so now like a whole hiatus of, I think, like a season and a half of Nadeko, and then her coming back, and then you see her in her oddity form. Ooh, oh, that was good. I'm very, very happy to see that Nadeko is finally getting the attention that she deserves.
So when I was going through the Monogatari series, Nadeko was just, I was about to say Nadeshiko. Nadeko was just the absolute non-factor in the story at the time. And I was like, okay, voiced by Kanahana, Renai circulation is really good.
You were kind of just wondering what her place was within Monogatari, because every character had such rich backstories.
Like, she's just there, right? Basically, right?
Like, every character from Shinobu to Mayoi to Senjukahara, like, all of them have, and Hanakana as well.
I was waiting for that,
They all have, like, deep relationships. Even the sisters, the fire sisters, all of them have, like, a really strong connection. Sometimes too strong. That was my gripe with it as well.
Yeah.
Not everybody is innocent, right? But Nanako didn't really seem to fit in. It was more just like she was like a kind of like a side character, and very much so. That's how she was kind of presented. In the
She's
first
like,
part.
the girl next door type thing,
Who happens to also have a very, very powerful oddity within her. But you solve it, done. That's it. You move on. But then a season and a half later, all of a sudden you see her in a brand new fucking light, and now you're like, oh no, this is actually one of the most important characters, as every other character is. I don't think there's ever a character in Monogatari where you see on screen and you're like, that's nothing. That's not much. They're just there to fill the air. That's it.
So, I mean, it comes to no surprise that after watching Otori Monogatari, my appreciation for Nadako is like increased exponentially. And I think everyone would go through some degree of that. Again, massive spoilers, so we can't go into it until spoilers. But overall, Will, what would you give this arc?
The arc itself, I would give it an 8.
Okay.
I think like because there is still like a lot to unfold. Like it literally it plays out like a thriller where you end on the 4th episode and you're kind of like cliffhanging. Oh, is like shit's about to go down, but like I haven't seen it yet. I want to see more. So with that kind of like hold my breath anticipation, I gotta give it an 8. It could easily be a 9 because the quality of animation is still consistent. In the end, Shaft always does a really good job. I had no problems with the animation whatsoever.
Oh, a quick thing.
Very, very, very bloody, by the way.
Yeah. David Productions with Jojo, same thing. Very consistent, very like top tier animation production. It's just great. So, all right. How do you feel about Oni Monogatari, the next one?
So I forgot which part I said in Monogatari where it's like, of course it's all very like exposition / story driven. Oni is history book story like driven.
Yep.
Holy shit, because you get deep into what makes the Monogatari series exist in the first place.
Right.
So everything that happened before the Koyomi like high school arc, before like he even like meets Shinobu the first time,
before in terms of timeline, Bakemonogatari essentially, right?
So you get like the beginning of time, essentially
Yes.
the beginning of time.
Yes.
And you see everything unfold. And the crazy thing as well is it happens over 4 episodes, which if you add time together, 100 minutes. Because on average, 25 minutes per episode.
Because
right?
you also got to watch the OP and ED.
Yeah,
there you go.
In this case, yes, because the music actually is good.
Good.
I know you're going to ask me about the rankings for the music later.
No, we'll do that at the end at some point.
Yeah, I might need to actually re-listen to them as well. So
I mean, I'm doing that with the stands, right? So
yeah. So the story is rich as hell, which is amazing that they were able to cram everything into 4 episodes. Because you're literally talking about the whole history of the oddities, the history of the characters, the reasons for why these curses exist, and what happens when the curses get broken.
Right.
So this is like the turning point in all of Monogatari where it's like, because before you just see conflict. Right. You see an issue, you see a problem, and then there's resolution. Whereas this is like, you're looking at all the reasons as to like where these oddities and these curses stemmed from.
Right.
And so how do you go about telling a story without boring your audience? Because yes, if you're watching Monogatari, it's all about storytelling. But even this is very dense for like the average Monogatari viewer.
So by now, you should probably know that each Monogatari arc has a girl as the sort of focus. With Bakemonogatari, it is literally introducing everyone. Kizu is Shinobu, and then Nisei is the sisters of Koyomi Araragi. Neko Black and Neko White is Hanakawa. Kabuki is a bit of 2 people, but also Shinobu and Mayoi.
Hana
is Kambaru. Otori is Nadeko, and Oni is
like, literally just everyone that's connected to the story, but with the main focus on Shinobu,
Yes.
on Mayoi, and all the other characters that are involved with unfolding this curse.
So the history lesson, I think, is extremely important because a new character shows up, and I think that's like this person has only shown up the one time, but this person showing up again brings all of the past traumas, past history back up. Hence why this arc is used to explain the context and everything happening to give you the necessary information to go into basically the third season, the last series of the Monogatari main arc.
I also love the fact that the character that was explaining the whole history of Monogatari as well was just like, oh, yeah, so this happens, that happens. Yeah, it's pretty cool, right? And then you have, like, the main character is like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, I mean, like,
there's a lake somewhere, right? And then
there's like a scrunchie and all that shit. It's like, oh, dude, this is really fucking heavy. I don't know how to process all this.
I just want to say that I think it has already been introduced in the story, but a particular character calls Koyomi Demon Boy.
Which actually makes sense because Onimonogatari, Oni being demon, it is a story about demons.
And also Oni-chan uses the word Oni, even though it is used differently.
Can't get more big brain than that.
Yeah, like literally this is a Nishio at its finest in terms of wordplay. So what would you say is Oni's last, like, final impressions in your score?
I think that, like, as far as storytelling goes, this is like a prime example of what it is to watch the Monogatari series because you don't get more dense than this. This is literally the full history of why the whole world even like was created in the first place. Like, this is literally every single Wikipedia article all condensed into 4 episodes for the Monogatari series. I like it a lot. Like, unofficially, it's an 8.5.
Right.
It's the escalation towards that boiling point, and you know what's going to happen because it's you get left off with a cliffhanger. Then you have this whole backstory that explains as to why this cliffhanger had happened, and then you just now are like, okay, like, no more teasing. Please let me get to the final part of the second season. So 8.5, it will be an 8. I think I gave it an 8, but you can't really give each part an 8 because it's like all-encompassing under one second season.
Yeah, side note, because Mal, and appropriately so, the whole season is all these different arcs put together, you can only give one score. I mean, technically in the notes you could say...
So you can average it out.
But it is really hard because some are better than others, but I understand why it's like that. So... Yeah.
So now we're going to end off on the unspoiler section.
Koi, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. My bad.
With Koi-Monogatari. Koi being love story, and perfect ending, too. 6 episodes, and also bringing back one of the heaviest of hitters in all of Monogatari, Hitagi Senjukahara.
But that's not the best girl. What was the other best girl?
I actually didn't think he was best girl.
You didn't think Kaiki was best girl?
Kaiki was a good character, a very well-written character, and he served his purpose excellently.
So remember, before we get into that, do you remember your opinion of Kaiki when he first showed up?
It wasn't so much of an opinion. It was more just like he just showed up. It was much in the same way that Nadeko showed up in the first season as well, where it's just like he's there, he does some malicious shit, and then disappears, and then there's murmurs among characters of who he is. But then now you go into this season, this part of second season, the last 6 episodes featuring 2 people, but not the girls within Monogatari. It is now Hitagi Senjukahara reaching out to Kaiki and finishing off on a big bang the second season of Monogatari. Was amazing. That was a very good story because, I mean, okay, not to forget about Nadeko, but Nadeko is like the big evil like villain in this. So we're going to focus on...
believe it or not, she is a big evil villain.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Because all these characters, because you've seen with Hanakawa, Senjukahara, Shinobu, Mayoi, there is a fucking dark side to each one of them. So if there's villains, I think the main story is that there's always a villain within themselves too. I mean, even Koyomi has a lot of internal conflict.
Yeah, Shades of Grey is the way the Monogatari series goes. So
yeah, so I think it was like the perfect way to end off second season because it encapsulated all the story that happened in Oni, all the cliffhangers that came in from Otori, and just giving you one whole package, how to diffuse the cliffhanger, how to elaborate on the story, and give each character who has a curse, who has a dark side to them, some humanity, some semblance of this person can actually be a decent human being.
So when Koi-Monogatari starts, there's a bit of interaction, and then the venue changes to an airport. My God, that airport scene, that whole sequence, so good.
I very much enjoyed it to the point now where, like, if I say any more about Koi, and this is the problem when going over the unspoiler section, because if there are 3 separate parts and I try and unspoiler each one, it's like, how do I unspoiler the subsequent parts without at least mentioning what happened in the previous parts? So I think this might be a good time just to, give it a little bit of a break, and we can start going into the spoiler section.
Right.
But before I even say that, overall, second season, 9 out of 10.
Okay.
Easily 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
I think I gave Bakemonogatari itself a 9 as well.
Yeah, I think.
But like different 9s, because in the first part, the 9s were based solely on the visuals. And yes, the story was great too, but like if you like the story in Bakemonogatari, second season is like a whole level above that. And I fully expect that when you get into the final season of Monogatari, it's just like, ooh, cream of the crop.
So here's the thing. In terms of novel release order, we both know, and if you wiki it, you'll know, Hana Monogatari, which talks about Kanbaru, is supposed to be slotted in the middle of the second season, animated season of Monogatari. My question to you is, now that you have seen all of the second season, do you think that stopping midway through season 2 to watch Hana Monogatari and then resume the rest of season 2, so basically following novel release order. Oh, we forgot to say that.
It made sense to watch it that way.
Right.
It made sense to watch it that way because like, if you were to see something so climactic as Koimonogatari and then you were to go into Hana, it just felt like the pace was kind of off. So it was more fitting to kind of just step aside, watch a little bit of Hana, and then go back to the main story. It's like doing a side quest along like your game. I was fully appreciative that yes, Hana Monogatari did get released anime form a year after second season, but I mean, watch it however you want. You can watch it release order, you can watch it in novel order. I would highly, if not only, I would only recommend watching it in novel order, right? Watch the first 2 parts of second season, then get into Hana, and then finish off with the last 3 parts.
All right. So now that has been said, we will go into spoilers. So we will say which one we're going to talk about first. Which one do we want to talk about?
Let's do Jojo.
Okay. So
everyone hold your breath for 5 seconds.
So we're going to say spoilers for Jojo in 5, okay? All right. So when you're listening to this, now we are starting the spoiler section for Jojo Part 3, Season 2, the first half, and everything that's preceding it, like previously. And you're warned.
So, as we alluded to, there was a new character introduction right off the bat in the battle in Egypt. So, yeah, Iggy. Iggy's the boy, right?
So, here's the thing. I did not know until he voiced... So, Iggy apparently has a voice actress. And you don't hear the monologue that Iggy goes through until literally the last episode or episode 38, somewhere there. And I was just like, wait. That's a girl with a masculine... That's a woman with a masculine voice. And it turns out I was correct. And so is Iggy a guy or a girl?
It's a boy.
Okay. All right. So it's just the voice actress or how they want to be conveyed. Okay, cool. I like Iggy a lot. In terms of his stand... it is kind of like all over the place because you don't really see a lot of him. You'll see a lot of him in the beginning, and then since then, he's just here or there, even though he contributes a lot to the rest of the gang and, the development there. Now, let's talk about some of the issues that I've had with the JoJo. So the first thing is the shape-shifting brothers, the manga brothers. In the
Boingo Boingo.
So yeah, the voice actors and actresses, when they name these characters, they say Boingo Boingo. And then in the subtitles, they actually have a more, I guess, normalized name. They call it Zenyatta or something like that. Like a more...
Zenyatta and Thoth.
Right.
Yeah.
No, Thoth is the name of the Egyptian god.
JoJo's tough.
So basically, it comes to no surprise. Boingo Boingo is like kind of offensive.
Oh, it's racist as shit.
Yeah, and you told me, Will, that in real life they had to do a recall or like a halt.
There was essentially an issue in the late 2000s when issues of JoJo Stardust Crusaders had to be recalled because of certain interpretations of religious figures or just religions in general. No surprise. As you mentioned in the first part of Stardust Crusaders, a lot of those issues existed, and they kind of persist in the second half as well.
So the brothers, right, their powers are actually really cool because it's a manga that can predict the future and the shape-shifting older brother. And if you were to tell me, hey, the manga art looks kind of iffy, and also the name is iffy, I'll be like, yeah, I agree. So what would you do differently? I mean, the name thing is pretty easy. You just switch the names. But the power and the art from the manga is kind of hard to, like, take out because that's the whole point.
I think in the end, though, right? Like, with the way that's with... How do I put this? I don't think it was ever malicious intent.
No.
In terms from the mangaka's perspective.
No,
right?
No, I don't think so either. But I think it's just really of that era, of that time.
But at the same time, it's like you can only really like replicate what you know, and therefore it's like for him to essentially go through all that history to properly represent something. Like, it's a lot to ask. I'm not saying it's excusing him of anything, but I do get that there is, of course, some gripes, some issues, and it very much was real world, like, true. It actually did happen. There were a lot of people that were not okay with what they were seeing in JoJo Part 3.
So there is a fight, the Anubis fight with swords, that I thought was done exceptionally well. And the sword fight there was just great. And how they resolved that was also not only funny, but also just has all the ingredients of what makes JoJo fantastic. Then we get into by the way, the blind man in the very beginning of part 2. No, season 2. Sorry, goddamn. It's really good too. It's very typical of how you would overcome that villain, but it was done very well.
You're talking about Geb, right? The guy who controls water?
No, yeah, the blind guy. So basically that was really how you would resolve that is not innovative, but the story that carried through to get to that resolution was done very, very well.
Smart.
Very smart.
Right. I think we're getting into the Maria.
So I really like Maria as a character in terms of not only her look, because obviously they purposely made it so she's very provocative, but also her power is really cool too. But everything that takes place during that scene, with the exception of what happens at the very end of how she loses, is extremely questionable. I'm saying, for example, the bathroom scene.
Yep.
And
what about the Joseph and Avdol bromance?
Yeah, so I wouldn't call that bromance because they were like mortified at how that came about, and I was just like, yeah,
it wasn't so much what they were doing; it was more what they were saying.
Exactly, and basically it was like jokes about homosexuality, and that will not fly nowadays. No way. But okay, fine. I guess if you're offended by that, I don't fault you for it. But then you should probably just not watch any more JoJo.
Look, if the vibes are off, turn the anime off.
Right, like I won't say like, hey, you're stupid. No. I'm not saying like, oh,
You're
because
completely validated in your criticism.
yeah. Like,
right?
oh, if you say like, oh, you can't tolerate that, then what are you, a pussy? No, none of that. If it's not for you, or you can't, or you think it's, egregious, I get it because I see it. Okay.
And it's not excusable too. Like for me, like I can overlook it because I don't take offense to it, but at the same time, like I'm sympathetic to the people who would be like aggravated by what they see. Right? It's again, it's not malicious intent. It's not like they're going to do this to insult a group of people or a religion or a race.
But whatnot. It does come off that way.
It does. And unfortunately, it's just one of those things where it's like, it's more than just blissful ignorance and more just kind of carelessness.
Right. But Maria, the magnetism part, right, of how she eventually loses is basically the very, very obvious principle of magnets, opposites attract, and that's she gets squished in the middle, and that's how she gets defeated. I thought was just genius. Then we get into the other questionable part, which is about Set.
Yeah. And
the shadow.
And the Stan's power.
And turning into a kid. Turning, like, people
Polnareff, right?
Polnareff into a kid.
No, Polnareff. Sorry.
Yeah. And then there is a bathing scene that is very disturbing because it contains not only poop jokes, which is the least offensive, to groping kind of like ecchi shit, which is not that offensive, to almost child abuse, to child murder, to... Yeah. But at that point, it was like, what would I do differently? The problem is it's so ingrained that, yeah, you can probably make some things be more palatable to the political correctness of this era that we live in currently. But it's really hard to change the overall sequence of events and resolution.
Yeah.
She turned into a fetus, though. That was fucking crazy.
Yeah. So you then, not to say overlook, but then it's like, we saw it, we accepted it, we moved on. That fight was still dope, though.
Yeah. Also, like, the PP thing, the baby PP thing, I was just like, that's very Japanese, like, baby kind of way to deal with that. Not saying that Japanese people are babies, but as in, like, literal child.
We then go into the next part, which is gambling, man.
So this is by far my favorite part of anything that I have seen of JoJo thus far, which is Darby. It's only 2 episodes, of course, which usually is the case for most of the villains.
It's usually like one whole episode or
part 1, part 2. I looked ahead a bit. I know that Dio is more than that.
Yeah.
So, well, but I don't know.
Of course, right?
Yeah, as you would, right? That's the final boss. No surprise there. The Darby thing was really cool because their fighting is actually non-combative. I think Darby gets his finger broken once, but besides that, it's all about mind games, wagering, gambling, and figuring out ways to cheat without being found out you're cheating, and how you would go about getting the edge.
Yeah, it's always like, in the end, the house always wins. How do you manipulate it so that your odds are higher, so that it becomes a little more equal?
Yeah, oh, and by the way, you might think that, it's just the bad guys that cheat. No. Everyone in that sort of conflict tries to get their way by rigging the system or cheating already. And it was just fantastic because even Jotaro at the end of that fight says, this is the strongest person that we have faced thus far because he could have fucked all of us up. And we just somehow got it. And also when Jotaro wages not only his soul, but Kakuin that is MIA somewhere that has yet to show up, and then his mom's soul on top of that, and then Avdol's soul on top of that, it's like the biggest, like, we all know you're bluffing because they reveal that the dealer is in on it too, who is supposed to be a neutral party. Yet, because so much is at stake, your decision to either call or fold is like, it's game over even before the moment he wagered all those souls, because it's too much to give up.
It was definitely one of my most memorable parts.
It is so good.
Of, Stardust Crusaders.
Like when everyone was there was literally moments where all they were doing was sweating and shaking because of the tension, and I felt it.
And it's also one of those things where it's like it kind of goes against the grain of what makes JoJo like such a big hit for its fans, because you always talk about, you know, their stance and their ura 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 ura, and it was like just punching each other, whereas this is like the complete opposite. There's no punches thrown. It's literally just sitting there and out bluffing your opponent.
About punching, young Jotaro is so badass.
Savage.
It's so funny because he's like, oh, he's a kid. What can he do? And then Jotaro being like, yada, yada, and just fucking beats the shit out of Set anyway. So
there is a character I do want to ask you about, because
Yes.
I don't really know how I feel about him to this day still. Whole Horse.
Okay, so he shows up again, and I was happy that he shows up. But what about him do you...
I just feel he's just some bitch-ass side character, man.
He is.
I just he keeps coming back, and it's like you can tell he's a very devoted follower of.
No, he's not
Dio.
devoted.
Well,
he's devoted because he can't beat Dio.
Yeah, but that's where like that's why he's so devoted.
That is true. He doesn't want to die. Yeah,
because he's like, you have to be devoted, otherwise like Dio's just gonna straight up fucking kill you, dude. But like, he's a conniving son bitch. Straight up, just like
he'll backstab you when
rotten to the core.
Yeah, for sure. I think Whole Horse got done dirty by JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, because in the first season of Part 3, he was made out to be this crazy villain with a power that is not that surprising. You know, bullets can aim and curve and move, right? Fine. That's not very hard, but to imagine it. But now he's
it's a
just
very simple stand,
yeah,
really.
But now he's just a comedic thing, and yeah, it was funny. But then,
I think that's the second appearance villain curse, where like you see them the first time and you're like all powerful. How the fuck are you gonna beat them? But when they get found out, they're just little shits.
Yeah,
that's unfortunate. I kind of like Whole Horse's character in the first part, but then afterwards it's just like you said, he's just made out to be a scapegoat.
When he point that gun at Dio, I was like, fuck yes, you're not gonna make it, but fuck yes. And then that got resolved, and I was actually super cool with the way it got resolved, right? Basically, Dio shows that like, I will fuck you up. You only have one more shot, one more opportunity, you know, mom spaghetti on the floor, that type shit. But then that team up with the Manga brothers is just fucking stupid. And I don't mean that in like a funny, fun, happy way. I meant that as
it was
in,
just dumb. Just
it was just butchered. It was funny, but it was butchered in terms of his role.
Yeah. Again, it's not perfect, but it is really damn good, right? Part 3 so far.
Very good. So,
you're only one cur away now. I know you watched one episode into that second half.
Yeah, so for the next Gotta Watch Them All, what I would do is finish the rest of Part 3 and start Part 4 and talk about both of them. All
Solid.
right.
Okay.
5 seconds, and then Monogatari spoilers. Okay, if you're listening now, we're going to talk about the spoilers for Monogatari. That includes everything before Season 2. And in this particular case, we're talking about Otori, Oni, and Koi-Monogatari, but everything before that, we will spoil. So,
Monogatari is just a harem series, right?
it is. I told you that since day one.
It's a beautiful story, but goddamn, like everybody who loves Koyomi just wants to fucking kill him.
Yeah.
The sisters want to kill him.
Yes.
Hanekawa,
Senjugahara.
yeah. I mean, you don't love someone as much as Senjugahara when you stick a fucking the stapler into someone's mouth.
I mean, it's yandere principle number 1, right?
no,
like
no. Senjugahara's not a yandere. She's a tsundere.
No. It's a tsundere. Tsundere. Like, there's an actual dere type for her specifically.
I mean, you can't get more archetypal than Senjugahara. She's a very mysterious character. I know we're going to sort of like jump back and forth throughout like Otori, Oni, and Koi, but it's kind of just because like the story is so dense that it's hard to go from start to finish without actually referring to stuff that happens later on in the second season, and also stuff that happens in the first half of second season.
So let's start with the big one. I did not know that Nadeko at the time wanted to be a manga artist.
That was actually a nice little twist.
Yeah.
Funny as well. So as I mentioned earlier, I was super happy to see Nanako come back because she was just kind of relegated to being a side character in Bakemonogatari. And when you see her like go through her transformation of realizing she's been cursed with with serpent oddity and that she has to fulfill that fate, and her just kind of like brushing it away, not really wanting it, but then afterwards the curiosity gets the better of her. And she decides, you know what? I'm gonna look for these bones. I'm gonna look for this shit.
I'm gonna eat this talisman.
Yeah.
So
not just because she wanted to, but because of the fact that like Koyomi tried to stop her, and then Shinobu was like, "Go ahead, fucking eat it. Why don't you fucking do it?"
And then I'll call your bluff. Oh shit! Never mind. Fuck.
And at that point, it was just like I understand that Shinobu is in her like child form, but she's still all powerful. And to see her get fucked up that easy was just like, damn. Damn, Sengoku, like you are a fucking demon. Holy shit.
Yeah, and I thought...
And she just wrecks Koyomi as well. Straight through the stomach, and then like literally about to do that final call, and then in a lot of people's eyes, best girl shows up, Hitagi Senjigahara.
Which, by the way, is the most ballsy shit ever.
Yeah. Don't kill him yet. Wait till they graduate.
Yeah.
Give it 6 months, and then when they graduate, they'll come back here, and then you can kill them.
Think about that. That is such a crazy way to buy time. I thought it was fucking crazy.
It's like when you have that option. It's like, would you rather know how you die or when you die? Both of them are fucking terrifying. And then Senjigahara's like, I'll just make it easy for you. I'll choose for you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it, straight up. And then of course Naoko just goes back to her shrine. Okay, I'll just wait here 6 months. Cool. I really like the serpent oddity. We've had like you've had the snail, you've had the crab, you've had the monkey, and then you've also have the cat. Of course, Hanekawa's oddity, fucking dope. It wouldn't have.
You also have the sisters.
That too, but you would the phoenix, right?
And the bee.
You wouldn't have two separate Neko parts if you weren't going to try and make Hanekawa one of the more like prominent characters within Monogatari. But dude, like, the serpent oddity is vicious. That shit, like,
he's a Slytherin, basically, right?
Yes.
There you go.
I thought that watching, what was the movie series called again?
What movie series?
The Shinobu.
Kizu?
Yeah, Kizu. I thought Kizu-Monogatari was bloody as fuck. No.
It is bloodier, but it is bloody in a very comical, exaggerated way at the very end, right?
Of course.
Stadium, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas, like, this was like just
straight up gore.
This was straight intense to fucking kill you.
Like, it hurts looking at it.
Because Kizu's like, I know I can punch you and like knock your head off, but you're gonna come back and I'm just keep punching you. Whereas this is just like, I love you so much that I have to kill you.
That's the Yandere principle right there. I'm telling you. If no one can have you...
Is that why I like Nanako? Because I kind of like Yandere's.
So I've heard so many things about Nanako being this amazing character, and it wasn't until she becomes like a god, essentially, that I realized, oh, that's why everyone was so hyped about her. And I'm agreeing with everyone here, too. And the way that it gets resolved with Kaiki kind of swindling her is so fantastically done, because it's all just straight dialogue, and it reminds me of the Darby fight, because it's just all killing, but then the way to kill the god has nothing to do with violence, and is just straight up convincing someone. And I thought, that's when Kaiki went from, I don't give a shit about this guy that scams people, to like, okay, I don't like you scam people, but what you did excuses pretty much everything that you will do forever. I like Kaiki so much.
Yeah. So the other character I do like as well a lot, and it literally they just show up for like a couple frames, right? Gaien. Gaien. Yeah. Because it's the whole point in Onimonogatari was Koyomi, Shinobu, Mayoi trying to find more and more and more about what the fuck is going on. And every step of the way, Gaien's like, oh, you don't want to know. Oh, you don't. No, you just stop here. Oh, okay. You want to know? Okay, come closer. Y'all are fucked. Why? Shinobu, why don't you tell him what happened in the beginning? Oh, you're not going to tell him? I'll tell you everything from the beginning.
So what was Hanekawa's really famous line? I know what... Oh, crap. Basically, there is multiple people kind of saying the same thing, but because it words differently. Like Gaien says, know everything. And then, I remember. Hanekawa says, I only know what I know. And then I think a few other characters have like, oh, I know nothing, or you know nothing, or you need to know what you don't know, or something like that. But then seeing these different people basically using kind of the same phrase to show their stance on things or their power or their capabilities, I thought was genius. And Guyan is very important. Did they tell you about the backstory of Guyan in particular?
Not as much, or at least like there was just so much story that it was hard to remember.
Well, what do you remember?
I just remember her just being a complete know-it-all about everything.
Do you know how she's related to Kaiki?
They might have gone over it in Koi, but again, it was hard to remember everything. It's like Guyan was still very much like that mysterious character, that person at the back where it's like they're almost like God essentially.
Right.
They are God, right? In this sense, Guyan. Like metaphorically,
she's an oracle essentially.
Yeah, where it's like this is going to happen and you're going to have to fulfill it, and if you don't do it, then like I'm not going to be there to physically tell you what to do or like physically like push you back on that path. But
she's the shadow broker basically from Mass Effect.
Yeah. So then you go into the whole Mayoi story was also really sad too. How she has to, essentially leave her existence as a lost cow and actually just disappear because she died 10 years before.
Do you remember the very, very end before she disappears? They like hold her back.
That was
like a snail.
That was the part where it was like all the issues that I have with Mayoi and Koyomi. I guess that very ending when they kiss was kind of poetic, but also, dude, it's kind of
sus, but also kind of sweet. But yes,
but also it's like this person's been dead 10 years ago, so technically age-wise,
hey, anime logic, right? Exactly,
right. I mean, why else would Shinobu be taking a bath with Koyomi when she's literally a 13-year-old girl, but she's actually a 3,000-year-old vampire
who lives in his shadow?
Questionable sus shit, right? But it goes every way in terms of other anime also having their own sus shit.
No, because if I remember correctly, what is the name of the guy in the Hawaiian shirt again? Meme.
Oshino
so
Meme.
Meme, Kaiki, Guyan, and I think there is one more character that has yet to show up at a shrine, let's just say. And then there's the other One-chan, the girl who has the doll. So they all are like the senpais of Koyomi, right? Basically, in terms of age. There is a very through line with all of them. Do you actually?
Yeah, I remember. There's it's one of the characters you were mentioning. There were also an Oshino, Ogi, that girl who was riding that bicycle alongside Hana, alongside Kambaru. She also shows up in Otorimonogatari, where he's like she essentially susses out Nadako, where she's just like, you know what, like you're all prim and proper, white and innocent, but I know who you are, and then like she's what's her relation? Because she's an Oshino. Is she the niece or the daughter of Meme?
So for those who know the answer to that question, and you can listen back to this point in the future, I'm not gonna say shit.
I mean, to be fair, though,
I can't say shit.
Well, it's fine too because I have my own suspicions as well.
Oh, what is it?
Which is the fact that this is like, I mean, every character in Monogatari is sus as fuck.
Right. But what is Ogi's sus part?
I just feel like she's wearing a mask. I feel like there's just.
But what is it then?
She's another. She's an oddity manifest. She's kind of like your Kaiki. She's kind of like your Gaians. She's there but not really there.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I don't know much. I mean, in the end, it's like there's a lot of different stories.
No. I understand that, and they all overlap in layers on layers. That's the whole point of Monogatari.
Yeah. So then, like, then we go into Kaiki, right?
Yep.
Kaiki, I can see why he's best girl for a lot of people.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, the opening's pretty dope.
Pretty dope.
Super dope. The other part too, when I think they played Renai Circulation for one of the episodes, and then another one where they did like and then instead of Nariko walking forward, she's walking backwards. Yeah, at that point I was just like, Nishio, always thinking of the small details.
Yeah, I also like the fact that when Kaiki and Senjugahara is at the airport, Senjugahara's disguise.
No, they were great.
It's just fucking hilarious. And then they were just...
Oh, the part where they kept on throwing orange juice into his faces and all that.
And then he had to go to the bathroom. I thought that was pretty cool, too, because when he went to the bathroom to clean up, he has this monologue with himself of who, why, where, and how does this all benefit me? And I really like that monologue so much.
It was also very refreshing to see Senjigahara so vulnerable as well.
And they even talk about that.
The part where like she literally like walks up, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, and she comes back like very clearly like distraught, crying, and then like Kaiki's like, "It's gonna be fine. What are you talking about? You don't have to be like this." No, I'm okay. But it's clear to see that like despite being this powerful heroine in Bakemonogatari, there's still a human in this person.
Yeah.
She's still very much like a regular high school student. Or actually, is she graduated now at this point? She's graduated.
No.
Not yet. Yeah.
They're all in their final year.
I thought they graduated.
Because they talk about, hey, Nadeko, can you stop killing until
so
graduation?
where does the Hana storyline
The Hana happens like 2-3 years in the future.
So that's when they graduate. Okay.
In terms of timeline, Hana is when Kambaru is in her last year. Because Kambaru is the Kohai.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's why Hana is important, because at the very, very end of Koimonogatari, Kaiki's life is in question, or it's ambiguous.
Yeah, because even though you try and save the Nadeko from the curse still exists.
Right.
So therefore, it's like, well, who's going to inherit the new one? And therefore, it's like, that's, the story hasn't finished yet.
Yeah.
There's a reason why there is a final season.
And Kaiki is alive because in Hana, which in the timeline chronologically is in the future, he's there having yakiniku.
Yakiniku, yeah.
With Kambaru.
Which, by the way, that looked like a really... I'm actually
and
really hungry now.
do you remember Ogi from Hana?
Yes.
Okay.
I remember... I mean, like... very, very swift pivot of the bike, being able to ride it forwards and backwards. Thinking back now, I did quite like Hana. Hana was pretty good. But, okay, so the whole series thus far,
yes.
Monogatari, Kizumonogatari, second season with Hana in between. Oh, and of course, Nisemonogatari, the more forgotten, like, please forget about that one.
I saw as important parts, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, take what you will.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yes.
So far, it's again, I'm in the similar vein of you, where it's like it's absolutely like 8s and 9s all round. Whether or not something will change my mind to make a particular part a 10. I mean, Kizu was a 10.
Oh, really? For me, nothing was a 10 out of 10. But the series as a whole is one of, if not the top series of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah. So I'm thoroughly enjoying my journey so far with, the fact that I've made it almost 2/3 of the way. It is 2/3 now, right? Is there anything I need to watch outside of final season, or is everything within it? Okay.
Everything's within it. So, yeah. Excited.
So we got a lot to finish up with in terms of, well, the final season for me, way more for you, because let's say you finish off part 3. You still got 3 curves of part 4, 3 curves of part 5. I think it's gonna be 4 curves for part 6.
Right.
Second curve's coming out,
and then Rohan Kishibe somewhere there, yeah,
with 4 episodes.
Yeah.
And then God knows when the other parts are going to come out.
Right. So we actually haven't talked about, will there come a time when I consumed everything and nothing new has come out in anime form?
At that point, it will probably just be, you know what?
We'll come back to it.
Little JoJo hiatus for GAP.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't make sense for you to just like wait for like part 7 and part 8 to get that. Because at that point, part 9 is also going to be running in circulation, at least manga form.
You mean Renai circulation?
I dread the day when I have to do a full tier list of all the anime openings and endings for the Bakemonogatari
That's going to
series.
happen.
It's going to be tough.
And I'm to have to do that for all the stands, so it's not like I'm in the clear either.
Don't do every single stand, because there's too many.
We'll set restrictions, right? So, but yeah.
Yeah. When we get to that point, of course. Yeah. So I strongly suggest anybody who hasn't even started, I mean, the fact you're listening to this episode now means you know enough about the Monogatari series to know it's absolutely worth getting into.
So we came to the point where let's talk about predictions. So a minute or two for each. Will, let's start with you. Monogatari, do you have any predictions you want to
in terms
put
of
forth.
in terms of what happens in the final season.
Anything at this point. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that you're going to be seeing. We've seen every oddity. We've seen every character so far. I think what happens now is, what about the other characters? Right? Do we see more of Ogi? Do we see more of Gaien? Who's the girl with the green hair that like has that stone face where she's just,
the doll. I like her a lot.
She's the cover for Asuki, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm assuming then it's more.
She's one of my favorite characters.
It's going to be more of those characters. I think we've seen a lot of, if not enough, of the girls and their oddities. I'm sure they're going to come back. Actually, maybe there's going to be more of a focus on the sisters, because I don't think that we've seen enough of the Bee and the Phoenix yet. Hanakawa's definitely going to come back. I think that however many episodes there are left for the final season, hopefully they're able to give every character the proper ending. But
I will answer that question for you. Yeah. At least in my opinion, yes.
In terms of like what I expect the ending to be like, bro,
it's really hard. It's
hard as shit.
impossible. It's impossible,
right? Like all you could, the simplest answer is I hope there's a resolution, and of course there will be one. How do you expect part 3 to end?
I think a lot of my predictions with Dio and everything is the same as what I would say last Gotta Watch Them All, which is it better be dope. I think Caesar should show up, bring back from the dead, fucking anything at this point. Like Naruto, Ochimaru, right? Summons back all the previous Hokages. Like, I want that level of craziness. All right. So that is our predictions, and now that is the end of this episode, right?
Time to clean some shit up.
All right. You can always reach us through our email, gapalette@gmail.com. That's GAPALLETTE@gmail.com, all lowercase, all one word. On Twitter, using the handle @PaletteGood. That's capital P and capital G, all one word. Or through our GAP Discord server using the invite link in the show description. We also have a website, and we encourage you to check it out. You can visit our website at www.goodanimepalette.com, all lowercase, all one word. Music credits for this episode. Our intro music is Ninth Power by Henyao. Our break music is Salamanca by Sarah the Illstrumentalist. And our outro music is Golden Rules by Luax. You can support the music artists we feature by listening to them on Spotify, Apple Music, or other various music listening platforms. Get this, Will. Our royalty-free music was provided by Epidemic Sounds. If you're interested, you can sign up using our referral link in the show description to get 10% discount on your first 12 months and the first 30 days of your subscription for free. Terms and conditions apply. We got the offer again.
Very, very nice. Epidemic Sounds has been very good for us.
Yeah,
so
rock solid.
Very, very happy with the service.
So you should go support them if you can. If you want to use their service, just use our show description referral link.
It's nice to see that you've done a full 180 on Stardust. Honestly, I think like it wasn't so much you didn't like as the first part.
Is that not surprising though? I think that is.
I would know, because I was just afraid that like the gripes that you had with the first part of Star Crusaders, because some of the issues still persist, right? And it's not like it's any different from the other parts. Yeah, it gets a little bit better. They're a little less offensive, quote unquote, in parts 4, part 5, and beyond. But I don't know. It's just one of those things where would it still be a gripe for you moving forward?
No. I think the only thing that I would want going forward is I want a Lisa type character before Stone Ocean, because I just want to see more female presence in general. Maria is pretty good already, but I want a Lisa level of appreciation.
I think that's why Stone Ocean exists.
I think that's why too.
Yeah.
So that is it. Next episode will be actually when it comes out, it would be the After Dark first, and then the week after that,
the crunchy one,
the summer one, the sizzling hot one of our summer 2022 anime seasonal premieres.
How are your seasonals coming along so far?
I haven't watched hardly any of them.
But what do you have? You wanted to watch? They're performing very well right now.
So Recoil is doing really well.
Engaged Kiss is doing well.
Engaged Kiss is doing very well.
Uncle Isekai Call of the Nights.
I really like both of them. I've been pushing for both of them, and I'm glad to see they're doing really well. I'm surprised about Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer getting destroyed.
Unfortunately, Made in the Abyss is doing extremely well.
Nothing against you guys.
No,
we just fucking Made in the Abyss should be sent into the abyss.
We should stop now.
We should stop now before anyone sends us hate mail. Okay, all right. Thanks guys for listening.
Bye-bye.
See you in a bit.